Hello, and welcome to the podcast. This is the beginning. Number 1. One day we will look back on this and say, remember when? There's a Simon and Garfunkel song called Bookends, and it describes two old friends. It's also called Old Friends. Now at the ends of their life, thinking about themselves at a younger age, like bookends. Anyway, I haven't introduced ourselves. My name is James Fitzmaurice, and my partner here playing the piano is Collin. This is the TTP podcast. Let's begin. Alright, so I guess I should begin by coming up with the theme for the podcast. What am I going to be talking about? What are you going to be listening to? Who is my audience? What is my purpose? I've thought about this a little bit. There's a little precognition here. It's not all improv off the cuff. So, I guess to start with, who will be listening to this podcast? Or who am I trying to reach? And I think the most interesting audience member is myself in the future. Maybe Collin will listen to this in the future too. Look back on his piano playing days of yore and his perspective as a youth. Because that's really what I want this podcast to be for, is I recognize the value of when I was a child and the perspective that I had, and if I can tap into it, it makes me happy. That I've lived and I've grown and I've gained perspective and seen the world. And to be able to tap into that better is something worth investing. It's like, have you ever seen those time capsules where it's like you put in like your t-shirt from a band that you went to, or like your favorite wrist bracelet, or a picture of your Thanksgiving, or something you think's memorable, and 100 years later some distant relatives of yours open it up and see what life was like back then, and most likely they won't really be paying attention. They can't really grasp the significance. This actually happened to me. I went to Western Washington University, and my great-grandmother went there 100 years before, and while I was there they had a time capsule. They opened it up, and I never went and looked at it. Didn't know where it was. And I asked a couple of people, just like on the street, because I'm not really looking hard. And they didn't know either, so I never ended up seeing what was in there, but I don't think she actually ended up putting anything herself in. But it shows to you how valuable people really consider history to be on a day-to-day basis. It's not given enough care and attention that it should. You know, there's that quote that's like, those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it. You know? Does that ever happen to you? You're like, same mistake. I keep making the same mistake because I'm not learning from my mistakes. And if you can just be more conscious and tap in better to who you were, maybe you won't try to date two girls at the same time and then go to the same restaurant and just like dance between tables. I feel like I've seen this happen in so many sitcoms. If they would just watch TV more, they wouldn't fall for these problems. Because it's on like every I've seen so many times. This guy dates 2 girls. He's like, I can just take them to the same restaurant, alright? I'll sit one in the back, I'll sit one in the front. I'll just keep pretending like I gotta go to the bathroom. Switch. I can eat 2 meals, no problem. Something always goes awry. But maybe one day there'll be a sitcom where he pulls it off. Where was I? Let's jump back here. Learning from history. That's what this podcast is for. For me to present my admittedly ignorant perspective. Ignorant in comparison to my future self who will be listening to this. And with ears of judgment will be able to cast aspersions? Cast aspersions? Is that a phrase? I think it is. Because hopefully I will have grown. And through this improvisational practice, I'll have a greater ability and understanding to be able to tap into myself. I wonder how much this piano pacing is affecting the pacing of my speech. Because all of a sudden I noticed Collin was playing like much more rapidly, and my words were trying to come out a lot more quickly, and I didn't feel they had as much depth. They were more just like sputtering new adverbs and adjectives to fill the paces in between the fingerings. What do you call it? Just like a little phrase. Fingering's a good enough term, I suppose. I wonder how often I'll get distracted by the music, because sometimes if I really like it, it's more captivating than my own thoughts, which is saying something. You could say I have a little bit of ADD. But if you cultivate it, then it can be an asset. Our distinctions are what make us valuable within a niche-based society. I'll quit professing because I know that's the most painful stuff to listen to in the future. Looking back, being like, oh, I was like so proud and like confident behind a point that I now totally disagree with. Although I did say that was the point of the podcast, was to make these mistakes so that I could learn from them in the future. And maybe I'm going to the top of this fizzy lifting drink, and I'm gonna get chopped by the propeller at the top like Willy Wonka. Collin danced like all the way up the whole piano if you didn't see the visual. Caught me off guard. I don't even remember really what I was saying. That's fine by me. I like that kind of spontaneity every once in a while. Oh man, this is fun. I'm having a good time already. This is a worthwhile investment. Oh no, where am I going with this next phrasing? What am I supposed to talk about next? Oh, there we go. So we got our audience. Me in the future. We got our purpose. To teach. And to learn. And to laugh and to live. I say that ironically, but looking at each one of those words, I would be fine with those 4 being our guiding principles. They all start with an L. I remember laugh and live. What were the first 2? I can look back. Listen. Write it down. Save it for later. Okay. So now I'm realizing that, like, as fun as the full improvisational stuff is, I can only sustain it for so long before I need some kind of guidance and direction. I need to be placed in a box so that I can discover its limitations, its edges, and play with that. That's kind of a technique I've seen used, practice. Sometimes when someone asks you a question, the hardest questions to answer are the most broad. You know, you say, what do you like? your brain goes wild. It's like, what do I like to eat? What do I like to watch on TV? What do I like to read? What do I like can be so many things. But if I say, what do you think about this banana? You can tell me, it's got too many brown spots. It's green. Somebody tore the end off of it, and it looks like it was in the garbage. Ugh. I would not eat that banana. I will not like that section looking back on it either. Alright, so let me propose some segments for the TTP podcast. I've already titled the podcast. I have not explained what the title of the podcast means. And maybe I'll do that while I try to think of what the first section should be. The TTP podcast. Oh. that last part was so full, it was tough to have confidence to speak over. This is more jaunty, walking down the boardwalk, seeing how I do. La da 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 dee da dee la da do. I'm sure that's a song that already exists, right? So the TTP podcast. You thought I was gonna leave it and go to something else. No, I have focus and vigilance. It stands for the TTP podcast. Get it? Get it? Really, it's a joke I stole from Dilbert. He has to work one day on the TTP project. And Scott Adams, the writer of Dilbert, he's making fun of the 3-word acronyms and the bureaucracy of a business culture. And I take that and I repurpose it to harness its meta potential, its recursive nature. The TT podcast. I'm trying to match the music a little bit here. I'm sure I've recorded on occasion myself talking, and it's so painful to listen to because it's just without melody. My voice it's grating to myself. I'm sure it's grating to many of you here too, and maybe I'll listen to it. Maybe I'll change it. Maybe I'll get a Cockney accent. Oh, that's not Cockney. Cockneys use they use H's in all their syllables. That's how you know. That one made Collin laugh. 1 score for an audible Collin laugh. I wonder if it got picked up on the recording. That's another nice thing about the piano fill, is when it's dead and I do a joke and I leave a pause, then it's just dead air, and you're used to hearing maybe a laugh track or genuine laughter. But with this piano fill, it's maybe he's just laughing far away and the piano's so loud. It gives you the atmosphere, that the laughter or the shrieks of disappointment. Who does that? So, one of the things I was thinking about is Collin here, he's mostly communicating through piano, through music. He did that one laughter, right? That was a little bit of communication. But I actually have my eyes closed, so even if he was making funny faces, maybe I'm imagining him making funny faces this whole time. Just imagine the piano player makes funny faces the whole time he plays, instead of that serious classical pose where he's playing with tails on a giant stage, and he's playing his shoulders are back and his chin is up. Instead of that, it's he's hunched over and he's sticking his tongue out and then sticking it under his lips and moving it around and doing googly eyes. And he'll twitch his head side to side Just imagine. The theater of the mind, isn't it a wonderful playground? You can imagine that Collin is just like a duck. He's like a rubber duck who's got like, or like a animated duck with like all the feathers, but they're like individual feathers. And he's like, he's got 100 fingers just like playing this piano. He's just going like bananas on it. Oh, making him work hard over here. Or maybe he's like some creature with like pronged fingers, like a T-Rex. He's only got like 3 fingers to play with on each hand. And he's working it, you know, he's got to go more mental because he's limited physical. It's like I always thought playing a trombone, or a trumpet, you know, it's only got the 3 notes. You know, it's like, how much can you really do with just 3 notes? But man, you ever hear them play? It's like, they get the whole thing out of that over there. I guess maybe it's like how much you play it down. Maybe it's like a little different. Or like you put down 2, it's different than like each one individually. You know, it's like you got the first one down, second one down, third one down, but you also got 1 and 2 down. Oh, whoever thought of that brought a whole new system to the game. Before they were just playing it with like only play 1 at a time. And they're like, oh, I'm pressing down 2 at a time. To be honest, I don't know how a trumpet works. Tuba, I kind of get that. The one with the slide, that makes sense. But what happens when they're pressing the buttons? Maybe I'll look it up one day. And then when my mind goes through the same train of thought, I'll be able to have the answer. I'll move one step further, and I'll have another question that'll be equally puzzling. Isn't that how life works? Just like a perpetual stepping stones of ignorance. Looking back at yourself, oh, remember when I didn't know how a trombone worked? And now I understand it one little more step more. You gotta press the button for it to work. You gotta blow into it. You gotta listen to Louis Armstrong. Or I gotta name at least one more trumpet player. Usually you name 3, but I'm struggling. Dizzy Gillespie? Does that count? 2? Ooh, give me 3. Who's the 3rd? Is there like a modern guy who plays the trumpet? Who's like, yeah, I play the trumpet. I play one instrument, trumpet. And I kill it. I'm at the Grammys with Kanye. I don't even think there's a saxophone guy that big. I gotta go back in the day again. Is it Duke Ellington? Did he play the trumpet? Oh, I don't think he did. Fats Domino? I can't get any help from Collin over here. He's not... I know he knows. He's got literally a whole bookshelf over here. That's all music. And he's got a second bookshelf that's like half music biographies. He's gotta know 3 people so quickly that play the trumpet. But in his head, he's like, oh, he's not thinking of this guy. He probably knows this guy plays the trumpet. He doesn't even realize it. But maybe on the other end of the spectrum, he's like, I hate the trumpet. I never listen to anything. As soon as it says trumpet, I shut the book. I'm like, throw that book out the window. I hate the trumpet. But even then, he would have to have run across it enough times to catch the name. Like, maybe the name comes first. You know, it's like, Duke Ellington played the trumpet! Out the window. It's a weak number 3. But you know, those old jazz guys, they had to play many instruments. I'll get away with it. He was probably a virtuoso of many instrumentations. That's not the word I want to use, but I get the point across. Am I being melodious enough in my speech? I'm trying to hit the meter a little better. But I'll listen back to this and gaze back to days of yore when my speech was much more monotone than days in the future. Oh man, that's not the kind of deep. I want to go more like vibrato in that depth. I'm going too much cowboy over here. I guess I like my cowboy voice. But how much do other people appreciate it? When I use a when I use a cowboy voice, does it make Collin feel like he's playing in an old West saloon right outside of Dodge? I always thought that them piano players, or were they even playing the piano? They were the most perceptive, keen observers of social interaction. They could sense the emotion in the room every time somebody walked through them saloon doors. And they would know who was walking in. If the bartender got up from his seat, walked over to that shotgun he had behind the bar, or if he poured him a glass of the finest whiskey this side of the Mississippi. I'm growing tired of my cowboy voice, and I'm wanting to turn it Irish. But I also like my normal voice. It's less like strenuous on the diaphragm. It's nice to know that I have a little bit of range. I'll ask Collin later how competent it seemed to him. Ugh. My southern wasn't southwestern enough. That's what I really like in the cowboys. So anyway, remember when I said I'm gonna try to think of sections to exist within the podcast so that I can put myself in a box and break the rules, set the rules to break the rules. One of the ideas that I had, well, first of all, one of the ideas I had was titled The Fitzmaurice Top 4 List. Now, I recognize it's a cheap rhyme, but it's my last name. I'm using every syllable. My last name's got 10 letters in it. Fitzmaurice. Top 4 list. 'Cause I like lists. I like ranking things, and I think it's an interesting discussion to have. It's an enjoyable discussion to have when you're thinking of your favorite things. It's one of my favorite distractions in life is starting to think of my favorite things, and it makes me happy. So I've used that. I wonder if the people in podcast land can hear the dog burrowing a nest in Collin's bed so he can rest. Back to the top 4 list. When we last left the podcast, James was talking about the top 4 list. So I didn't want to make it like a top 10 list. That's too much. And I was going to go 5, but then I'm like, 4 list. It rhymes with Morris. What an insight. What a divine inspiration. A 4 list. I'm no David Letterman with his top 10 list. I got 4. And then I was like, what am I gonna do to put my own little unique James spin on it? How am I gonna decide the 4 greatest popsicles and still make it entertaining? Because if I'm gonna do this, I gotta break it down for you. I'm going fundamentals and building my way up to the sky. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite time of day? What's your favorite thing to eat for breakfast? Who is your favorite 17th century painter? In Eastern... Ooh, Eastern, that's not the way to go. Western, everyone's got a West. West Germany. Western... Carthage. Ooh. So, and it's also easy to think of, like, the more specific. Remember when I was talking about this earlier in the podcast? I was saying, the more specific the question, the more specific the answer. So, when I ask myself a specific question, let's give an example. So I can work with, describe in depth, go in detail. What is my favorite book? Let's go deeper than book. What is my favorite? Let's go genre. What subgenre? What's a subgenre that I've read enough books to have an informed discussion on? How about utopian novels? What's my favorite utopian, dystopian novel? Now you get the kind of taste that I have. The kind of things I work with. Things is the word I was trying to overcome when I was pausing there. Couldn't do it. Alright, what are my favorite utopian books? And so, the unique thing about the Fitzmaurice 4 list is that each of the 4 things, they're not ranked 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all equal. Because each one represents a unique perspective. I'm not going to choose my top 4 list. Maybe I'll put in one from my perspective. But maybe I'll imagine the perspective of a garbage man. What is his favorite utopian novel, I would imagine? Maybe he loves Fahrenheit 451 because he imagines himself picking up the destructed waste. Fahrenheit 451, there were the people, right? For people who don't know, they were burning the books. They burn at 451 degrees. Just imagine being a garbage man in that world. And you have to pick up the garbage of these books. These great tomes of knowledge. The education of our forefathers. The giant shoulders we were supposed to be standing on, and you have to sweep it away into dust? As a garbage man, what empathy you must have for that destruction. You see it before your eyes every day. People throwing out and wasting things that have been so painstakingly created for your consumption. How hard it was for a man to write that book that was torched. And how can you stand such dystopia? Maybe the garbage man is more on the dystopian side of the dystopia-utopia complex. He's not into that Aldous Huxley, Brave New World kind of everything. Everyone's eating the soma. No, in his paradise, he knows there is no paradise. And to not have the right to choose is not America I want to live in anytime. And God bless these painted waves of grain and purple mountain majesties. What greater country to live in, what greater land than America? I got another laugh from Collin because I've been going into this America bit for long, but it's music to be prophetic to. You didn't know you were inspiring it at me. This nationalism is dangerous. That's how wars start. I'm not a member of the United States. I'm a citizen of the world. And I hold all of my brethren in equal esteem. I'm for sweatshops. They're good for the economy. That was a bit of a leap. I'm not going to go into explaining it. I have to return to our garbage man and his favorite dystopian novel. Actually, I think I solved the puzzle for that one. Strike one in the 4 list. Now I'm faced with the dilemma. This is such a good 4 list. Should I continue? Or should I move on to other sections? I have no idea how much time has passed. And I don't think I'm gonna check, because I kinda like having my eyes closed over here. Let the music swallow my head. Let the music... I can't come up with a good song to match. I gotta get more baritone. It's the diaphragm. I don't really know what the diaphragm is, but that's what they say. And so, I do what they say. Or really, I say what they say. And I do what I do. So many people are incapable of walking the walk and talking the walk, that it's a very complimentary compliment, in my opinion. It's saying you're not a hypocrite. We all know that we're all hypocrites. Every one of us. We're all hypocrites. Because I don't want to go into why we're all hypocrites. I want to talk about dystopian, utopian novels and whose perspective do I want to tap into? I've seen The Garbage Man. It's clear to me 451 is his favorite dystopian novel. But what about the princess who lives in a tower? She feels isolated by her wealth and beauty. She wishes she could hobnob with the common man. She's a Jasmine searching for an Aladdin to show her a whole new world. A dazzling place I never knew. And so as she sits in her ivory tower, she reads, trying to imagine the world of the common man. Now we reach a fork. Which way will her taste lead? Will she go to the dark side? Now, there's some Dostoevsky that I consider to be utopian of sort. No, not. I just said the wrong name. Who was the guy? So far off when I said Dostoevsky that it's making people think of all of the wrong things, and they're going Russian literature. I'm trying to take it over to like France, I think. Who did the short stories about like? There was a short story about a guy who was like, The Starving Artist was the name of the short story, and he starved himself as an art. But it was the only skill that he had, and over time it grew out of fashion to be a starving artist, and he embodied the starving art. He was starving as an artist as well as starving. So many layers there. Kafka. I did it. So since I've gone this far down this, it's such a weird place to imagine as a utopia. But for some reason I do a lot of his short stories, Kafka. But on the dystopian, depressive side of a perfect world that can't exist and is inherently built with foibles and treacheries and all sorts of pungy sticks coming at ya. what we take away to achieve perfection. It's nature. The Starving Artist. The favorite dystopian novel. Oh, it's not even a novel, it's a short story. I'm going so against my box that I built here. I'm breaking all the rules. I made this box for myself to find the edges. This princess has her own definition of what a dystopian novel is. She's saying, I count short stories. She's saying, whatever this world is that this starving artist lives in, it must be a utopia for him to be able to live through his starvation. That life can be beautiful and exist through a lack of appreciation and solitude that comes with a genius untapped into. He was the greatest starving artist there ever was. And because of that, he held on to it. Because it was all he had. Because some people believe, I don't necessarily agree, true genius is like one deep well. But I believe you can be very Jesuit and spread your talents across many pools. But some believe true artistry, you can only tap into one. And this was the case for this starving artist. He could only starve. It was all he was good at. I don't remember the end. Because that wasn't really the point. I think he starved at the end. The end. He starved. What do you get? The point is the layers of the starving artist. Usually we think of the starving artist as a phrase. It's like, okay, guy, he's a painter and nobody ever buys his stuff, and then he dies and they sell it for millions of dollars. It's a story told time and time again throughout history. But Van Gogh, I don't need to list examples. Who are the top 4 starving artists? Find out next week, if I remember. Should I go on to number 3? Now I gotta reverse engineer. Maybe I'll go like, what kind of person would consider this to be the greatest dystopian novel? The example that comes most frequently to my mind would be 1984. Because the kind of person whose favorite dystopian novel is 1984 is the kind of person who's only read one dystopian novel. All of the selections I've chosen have been dystopian, leaving myself in the future to choose some utopian ones. I never chose Brave New World. I didn't choose The Giver. I know I say it's a blurred line, but who's saying 451 is a utopia? It's dystopia. Ooh. So, imagine the person, he's like, hey, I have to read a book in 10th grade history class. It's this book, they said, it's called 1984. And on my Facebook wall, I always see people mentioning it when they do posts of political stuff. So it must have like cultural significance or something. And then they read it and they're like, wow. It's like my life, man. Everybody's tapping into my phone, trying to see what I'm doing. It's like I gotta walk around with an ID. It's like, fuck your ID. Oh, that was the first time I swore. Oh no. The FCC is after me, man. No, they're gonna shut me down. I just want to be free. To a certain extent, I believe that it's propaganda from the US government making us read 1984, so we'll rebel against the suppression, but only enough to keep ourselves truly suppressed. The paranoid levels run so deep once you begin talking about 1984. I do like the book, but to me it's tarnished by all these people. And I love being able to tap into a knowledge that people have from a book they've already read, so I can just make a reference and they'll know what I'm talking about so quickly I don't have to describe everything that I'm saying. But these people, it's the confidence that comes with having read a single book. So many people, they're like, hey, I read a whole book. I must be a genius on this subject. It's like, you gotta read 2 books, guy, don't you know? Dude, you gotta read 2 books. You gotta read 2. You gotta see around the biases of a singular perspective. You gotta know your first source. Your primary source is the only thing worth dealing with. Because the secondary source is gonna add another bias so that it's confounded in a way that you'll never be able to extrapolate unless it's a pure fact. You gotta read the first-hand material that's got an inherent bias that you can track and eliminate. You gotta read a second source that's got a different perspective and bias on the situation. You've gotta Venn diagram that shit. And then I'll listen to your opinion. So if you're a person out there, and you've read one dystopian novel, and that novel is 1984, this podcast is about learning and education and growth from ignorance. Let me recommend to you my perspective, the 4th of the 4 list. What is my favorite dystopian novel? Now, it's a question I've tossed around in my mind many times. But the one I always go back to is The Giver by Lois Lowry. There was a movie made recently with the Big Lebowski. I should know his name quicker than this. And supposedly it was a book he loved. He read it when his child read it. I guess it's required reading for some elementary school kids. It wasn't when I was a kid, although I did read it when I was that age. And he wanted Jeff Daniels. There we go. He wanted to play the Giver. So the movie was made. And the movie, I give it a 60. Which, for being my favorite dystopian novel, is a disappointing score. If it was a book I'd never read, I'm satisfied with a 60. I mean, it's above 50%. What more can you ask for? You know, above average. As long as you're above average, you're bringing everybody else up, you know? But, why do I love it? Why is it my favorite? Because, to me, a dystopian novel should be about the limitation on one side, and on the other side, the reaction to that limitation. How it... how do I explain this? How what people think is good is not good in excess. Would be one example. So, like, imagine if it was Christmas every day. Do you know that utopian short story? It's like, hey, what if it was Christmas every day? Wouldn't it be great? But then it's Christmas every day. And you like, ham, roast ham again, candied ham every day for dinner? I want to eat some scallops over here. I want to eat some blueberries. I guess you could have a Christmas dish with blueberries, but it's like Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day would be the best utopian movie. There's not as many in the genre. But Pleasantville. Pleasantville's a great example. With Spider-Man. I won't go into that one. But back to the Giver. What was their limitation? They didn't have the right to choose their profession. They didn't have the right to choose hardly anything. They couldn't have their own children. These decisions were made by people who knew better for them. They'll take away all the hard parts of life where you have to make decisions. And they'll do it for you. And then when it's time for you to have a job, you can make of one small section, you can expertise yourself in one small section of decision making. But then the utopia-dystopia sets in. Oh no. With this type of social structure, how will they be led? And what's great about The Giver is almost every other dystopian novel is about exposing the corruption at the top of the pyramid. But The Giver teaches you that the corruption is inherent with the power. He's the most benevolent leader of a society. But because the people are ignorant, his decisions, they don't know. They don't understand war. They don't understand hunger and thirst and the heat beating on the back of your neck when you've been traveling in the desert for days. Because you don't have food. Because you wanted to strike it on your own and go see lands that have never been seen. And that's why I love The Giver. Because you understand that we need to know and make our own decisions, and we need to be alive in order to really be a human being. We need to experience the variety of emotions and experiences that can be experienced by a human being, reach the ends of the earth on both sides. That's what it means to be alive. At least that's what Thoreau's been telling me. We could call that the end of the 4 list. And I could go into talking about Thoreau. Because as it would happen, one of the sections I was thinking about is the books that I read. And I know I just had a section on books. It's like, geez, what does this guy do? Just read books all day? Read. What does this guy do? Like a book reader? He lives in the library? What a nerd. Oh, reading a book. But it's one of the things that I do. And I do it on a regular enough basis that it fills my mind with thoughts. But sometimes it's nice to bring them out. And it's something I do on a regular enough basis that it can be a continuing theme. But maybe I won't, well, I was gonna go, so I've been reading Thoreau. I was gonna go into that. Because it was what I was talking about at the very end when I was doing the very last thing in the 4 list. Oh, and by the way, it would be nice, some kind of musical ending. I don't know how to, like, what in music makes you feel like something is at the end. But if there was some way I could, like, call it into cue and then have it be, like, as a transition from one thing to another. I don't necessarily need to practice now, but just, like, the concept of something existing would be possibly... This does seem like kind of... It's like, oh, do. This is the end. Oh, man, my voice didn't match that tone at all. If you were listening to the music, you would have heard people in podcast on the consumptive end. This podcast is trying to wrap up. No, it's not. It's just the section. I wonder if Colin's thinking, how long can James talk for uninterrupted? I guess a long pause is one way to cue, like, this is the end. Oh, start back up. It's a tease. Oh. Okay, so it's been... I just opened my eyes. It's been 15:06. So is that an hour and 50 minutes? That can't be right. That seems way too long. Have I really been talking that long about it? Is that right? 15, 20...
Check the time, dude.
No, I mean, that's what it kind of says. 1:50.
No, it's 1:27. It's gotta be right. Think about it. You came over at 12.
Yeah, I guess that sounds right.
It's 1:27. James has been talking for an hour and 15 minutes uninterrupted. That's some virtuoso talking.
Colin chimes in at the...
Sounded like
at the pause of music. I don't. Well, I've only done one section. Completed one section of this podcast.
We can keep going.
Okay, because I wasn't sure what Colin's limitation on time is, but I'm free all day.
Well, my limitation is more like, my limitation is more energy. If I'm, like, feeling less energy, then I can't continue. But if the energy continues, then I can continue indefinitely.
Okay, cool. Because I wasn't sure if you were like, let's wrap this up music. Like, come on, James, let me inspire, like, you not doing this so much anymore.
No, you asked for it.
I did, though. So it was because I was having that train of thought that I was, like, thinking about it.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's up to you. You like talking, I like listening to, but also, if you feel that you've gone as far as you can with just talking to yourself, you can always talk to me.
Oh, okay, so this is great now that we have, like, a pause in the piano. I can, like, get an update and be like, how's it going? What have been your, like, highs and lows of what I've been talking about so far?
I don't know. I've been thinking about the piano mostly. I guess when you say something that sounds, like, particularly interesting to me, then, like, I like, my ears prick up.
So what, can you remember any of those things?
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating, actually, because if I was just talking to, like we normally do, like we're walking or something, and then you say something that interests me a lot, I'd be like, wait, like, I want more explanation on that particular point, and I want to, like, curb you if you start, like, going out of the zone. Like, go back into...
the frustrations of listening.
But, yeah, with this, like, if you say something and then it's, like, interesting, then you follow it up with the explanation that, like, doesn't, like, say what I want. You're like,
an incomplete description.
You're taking this interesting thing in a direction I didn't want you to go. I don't know. Or...
Can you think of a concrete example? You love the Garbage Man stuff. You're like, who cares about the princess in her tower?
Well, I wanted to hear more about how the hunger artist is a utopian novel to a princess. Like, that didn't quite come here in my mind.
It didn't. I realized about halfway through that, like, this is not a dystopian novel at all. But I've already committed so much, like, speech to it that, like, there's not really a lot of going back. So I kind of, like, tried to wimp out and be like, the princess has, like, a different definition of what a dystopia is.
I remember that. I think, like...
But I was thinking about that, like, ooh, man, how am I going to spin this to make this work? Because I just tried to... Whatever book came up in my head, that was the one I talked about.
I think a lot of what I would do if I was just talking to you is sort of just, like, call you out more. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And that's a fine role for me. But also just listening to you spin on, because it doesn't really matter. You'll get to something else interesting eventually. If you just keep grinding those gears.
But it's...
spinning the wheels.
It is true that, like, listening back to myself, the moments that I don't enjoy are those same moments where it's like, James, what are you talking about? This is not a dystopian novel.
Or, like, yeah, like, you could have, like, clarified your thought more.
Yeah, that's because, like, I know what I'm talking about, but, like, it's tough to get out sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. In fact, that's what I do a lot when we're just talking. It's just, like, you clearly have an idea, and I just ask you to put it in a way that I can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the satisfying part for me, is that like now we have something different because you were forced to put it in.
Yeah.
And
we both grown.
Yeah, in mutual terms, yeah. But yeah, feel free to keep talking. I have a lot to play.
Okay. Do you have any time limit?
Well, I have to take Pepper around like 7.
If I can talk for that many, that'd be 7 hours, 8 hours, 7 hours, 7.5 hours at least.
And look.
So would you say it's been 155?
Logic can only record for 212 more hours.
Phew.
Oh wait, actually 212 more minutes.
Ooh, me. It's only been 1,600 minutes.
Wait, really? That seems like not a lot. I guess.
No,
well,
160
I have an
minutes.
extra. What?
No, there's no way I'm going to talk that much. Another 212 minutes? Oh, no, is that...
Yeah, that's not that long.
Because this isn't minutes. This is like the least interesting part of the podcast so far.
No, I'm looking at this. This is 56:23. That's our elapsed time.
Oh, you're right. No, because it's recording it.
Yeah.
Oh, so I've only been going for 56 minutes?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right, because I didn't get here. Oh, yeah.
No, we did a bunch
like
of
12:30.
tests.
You're right, and we did those. We did those 3 tests that the audience will never hear. The genius that I did. I remember on the third test, I was like, 3rd time's the charm. Remember that?
Sort of. Okay. Well, that's not. I was kind of joking, because, I mean, that shouldn't be a limitation. I do have another hard drive if it really comes to that.
Okay. Well, I think we're good.
You don't think you can talk for another 4 hours, James?
Ooh, I would be curious.
I bet you can. I would think, like, at some point we should take a break.
Yeah, maybe I would need, like, water or something. I'm actually fine.
You don't need water?
Mm-hmm.
I need water.
You need water? Okay. How do you pause?
Use the spacebar.